that anti-bullying programs in schools don't work. And I'm here to tell you that the research supports that belief. Many schools have spent thousands of dollars supporting programs, such as one from a Norwegian model, where if you actually look at the statistics, they haven't reduced bullying. So, knowing that a lot of anti-bullying programming in schools is not working, how does this fit into your preference for pro-hero programming instead?
Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Love it, Joe. Love the quote. I don't think I'll put that on our shirts next year for the conference.
Oh, come on. They'll sell like hot dogs.
Just the word anti. Think about it. So we're sitting in this room. We're laughing. We're putting some humor. We're talking about a very serious topic of bullying, and it happens in not just along K-12 schools. We're talking in the workplace, out in the community, and so on. And think about that, the word anti, very negative. Think of pro, very positive. And as Carrie said, there is no research to show that anti-bullying programs in schools work. Actually, the research shows that it actually can make it worse. So Matt and I, Matt's going to speak here in a second, we believe that pro-heroism does work. There is research behind the positive psychology, and there's research behind it. We give kids, but also, dare I say, adults, the tools and the skill sets to be an everyday hero, as we like to say, and not a bystander, and actually do something about it. Your culture, whether it's a K-12 school, within your community, the workplace, it will change. And just listening to our speakers ahead of me, Ashley talked about community, Joe's talking about humor, Ashley talked about being kind and being positive. Those play into what pro-heroism is all about. Those are the characteristics of what a hero is. When you step out, you take action. So I'll end it with this. I'm a former building principal, elementary and middle school, and former school administrator at central office. And as Carrie said, and Chase has alluded to, schools will throw thousands and thousands of dollars at an anti-bullying program because there may be a shock factor behind it, or maybe that the adults say, wow, this looks really good, let's bring this program in. But, and here's a question for maybe the students in here to think about, does it work? Does it work?
I see some hands shaking up here in the front row.
And they're shaking no. And my experience in the school district has been that we, as the adults, will pat ourselves on the back and we can show that we spend a lot of money on these programs, but on the surface, it may look effective. When you dig deep down, are we giving students, are we giving teachers, are we giving the parents the skills so they can go out and practice be heroic, which means you're not being a bystander. And that's what Matt and the Hero Construction Company does. And he's going to talk a little bit about our conference and why we started that conference. So I guess to be simple, in Joe's case, what he needed was heroes. He didn't need an anti-bullying. He didn't need somebody or program to come in and say, quit picking on Joe. Because we all look at each other and we think, okay, what does that mean? What he needed, what his school needed, is somebody to come in and talk about, one, the research behind positive psychology and growth mindset. Meaning, if we say anti-bullying, in my experience, there's second and third graders that live their life feeling that they are a bully. Because ultimately, everybody in this room, we've been mean to somebody. We're human. But what we need to do is say, no, here, even though you were a bully on this day, guess what? You're going to wake up, you're going to come to school tomorrow, and it's a fresh start. This is how you act as a hero. And if you see this happening in the hallways or on the playground or in the locker room, it's not up to Joe, it is up to the bully, but it's up to the 50 other football players in that locker room to go up to the person picking on Joe and say, that's not right. We do not put up with that at our school. And if that would have happened, Joe may have still had that tagline, which we all love, but maybe he wouldn't have to jump on the back because all of us would have stuck up for him. So, pro-hero.
Studies actually show, Adam, that more than 50% of bullying behaviors stop in less than 10 seconds if even one bystander takes heroic action. And heroic action might be as much as, let's say someone's picking on Chase here for something. A heroic action on my part might be me just walking up and saying, you're okay. You're okay.
Sometimes it's as simple as stop laughing.
Yeah,
At the person.
that's right.
If the person's not going to react anymore, they stop.
Absolutely. I'm going to introduce now, again, Matt Langdon, who he has the Hero Construction Company, which he has put together for the purpose of teaching people how to be heroes. I'm going to have Matt talk to you about what the bystander effect is, because it plays a direct role in becoming a hero.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Adam's started discussing it already, but the sentence I use in a lot of schools is that the opposite of a hero is not a villain, it's a bystander. And we, especially on days like this, we see a lot of heroes and villains out on the floor, and it's easy to get stuck in that idea that you're either a hero or a villain. But 90% of the population is not taking part in this bullying at all. And it's that 90% that has the power. So it may be that bullies are dicks, and, well, I mean, it is that bullies are dicks.
That's a fact, actually.
That is a fact. But we can ask them to stop being dicks, but the reality is it's probably a behavior that's going to go on for some time. And again, it's a common thread here. It's when people stand up and do something about it that makes the change. Now, the reason that nobody does this, or that so few people do this, is tied up in this bystander effect. So we choose not to do the right thing, whether it's in bullying or whether it's someone's collapsed on the floor, or earlier today we saw a dog get lost and everybody just watched as the dog ran past them. Bystander behavior is caused by all sorts of different things. There's been a lot of research on the size of the crowd having an effect. So in a large crowd like this, there's less chance that somebody's actually going to step up and help, because you start putting the responsibility onto other people. You might say, well, if Adam had a collapsed on the floor here, you'd say, well, someone up on the panel is going to help him. The people on the panel are saying, well, maybe there's a CPR trained person somewhere. You start making excuses for why you're not acting. There's also a lot of pressure to conform with the group, and especially in schools. You want to do what the group's doing, whether you know it's wrong or not. And again, psychology research, decades of it, has shown that this is the case. And so what we try to do in the Hero Construction Company is to give ideas on how to practice to be a hero. So how to overcome these pressures, because they're real, and they are the reason that we don't act. So you might, to break out of this crowd conformity, you might dress weird at school and get used to people looking at you and laughing at you. People that are used to that are more likely to step out of the crowd to help. You might start practicing doing little good things, and again, we've heard this, getting into the habit of giving a compliment each day is going to make you more likely to help when someone needs a bigger help. This practice of reaching outside of yourself is an incredibly important part of heroism. And a lot of the times, especially in schools, we see kids get into their own little world, and they're walking just to get from their locker to their classroom to their locker to their classroom, and they're not noticing what's going on around them. If you don't notice what's going on around you, you can't be in a position to help. So that's building empathy. There's a little social risk in paying someone a compliment, because you just don't know what their reaction is going to be. You don't know what they're going to think your intentions are. So these little actions can help develop this idea, this sense of heroism, so that when you do see someone who needs help, you do something about it. Whether it's standing up to the person and saying you need to stop, or whether, as Carrie said, it's taking that person who's copying the bullying away from the situation, asking them if they need help. All this stuff has risk involved, and that's an important part of heroism. There's no hero without risk. So that's all this stuff tied up into why we don't do the right thing. And I think just knowing about it and starting to do these little practices is what can change behavior and then ultimately change culture.
Thank you so very much, both to Matt and Adam, for the work they do with the Hero Roundtable and the Hero Construction Company. They have a phenomenal conference, by the way, that Chase and I were at, and there's like 600 kids there. There's breakout groups, different people talk about heroism. It was wonderful. I highly recommend it in Flint, Michigan next year. Okay, I am now going to turn to Ava Vega-Olds. Ava is here from the Anti-Defamation League, and the Anti-Defamation League has a long and rich history in standing up to bullying and hate and all kinds of of discrimination. Eva, before there is prejudice and actual discrimination and hate, there comes bias. You at the Anti-Defamation League have worked with kids to show them that the words they use and the biases they have do not just affect the victim. For example, at school, if someone does something that you think is uncool and people respond with, "Don't be a retard," or "Don't be a fag," they're choosing words that have bias. Raise your hand if you've heard people at school just say, "Don't be a retard, don't be a fag." Right. That reflects a deep bias to begin with. So how do you work with kids to let them know that even the very word choices they use have a real effect on the world around them and society at large, not just on the specific victim?
Well, thank you. Well, I just want to say that I'm rebounding from an illness, so I'm not trying to sound sexy. So if it's working for you, okay. So ADL is 100, just some context. We're a 100-year-old civil rights organization that have been fighting bias and bigotry of all kinds for 100 years. Like since '85, we started the education arm, which does anti-bias education, talking about how bias, when unchecked, escalates to prejudice. When that goes unchecked, prejudice escalates to discrimination. And when that goes unchecked, violence and hate. This is not a new phenomenon that's happened in our country. Youth did not create this. We inherited it. Notice how I'm just complaining myself as part of the unit. So the point is, it's been around a long time. We've been doing anti-bullying, anti-bias work in schools for 10 years, and cyberbullying work for 7 years. And we have found that it has morphed, that it looks different for youth today, and the experience among adults today looks different. Just because technology is different, and the way schools are orchestrated are different. We used to be able to go walk to school. Now we get bused to school. We used to, the people in our lives were the same 20 people in our class. And now that's no longer the case. And so there's a lot of community-oriented opportunities that youth have that they need to be guided in. And sometimes it just goes awry. I just want to say that I shared on Facebook that I was coming to Comic-Con. I was pretty stoked. I've never been to Comic-Con before. I have cousins in Puerto Rico who are very active in cosplay, and they participate in Comic-Con in Puerto Rico a lot, and they spend a lot of resources. And just some context, they're in their late 20s. They're twins, identical twins. One of them has MS. And one of the ways that they have stayed close and active and have community together is through the cos community. And they spend a lot of time and a lot of resources on their costumes. Anyway, so they're like in Puerto Rico, totally stoked that I'm coming here and I'm talking about bullying, and they sent me this message. And I wanted to read it to you because I'm like deeply proud of them, because they are like fierce women. I'm just gonna say that. And I'm their cousin, so I'm kind of biased, so here's the bias. So if you don't mind, you indulge me, I'll read it. And there's some words that I think are in Spanish, but I'm not sure. Because I don't know, whatever, don't judge me. You ready? Okay, so hello, I'm trying not to be with Spanish accent.
You are already.
But I'm totally